Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Soul Shift Messages. If you found your way here, trust there's something in this message for you, but understand this space is about growth, truth, and transformation. We don't bypass here, we don't sugarcoat, and not every message will feel comfortable, but it will be honest. I speak in flow, and that includes cussing. It's just part of how the messages come through for me. Remember, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own discernment above all else. Take a deep breath, and let's begin. So today's message is why people get stuck after awakening. Again, we're moving from reaction to understanding. And so to start this message off, we're going to talk about the transition after awakening. So in my previous video, and I will link that below in the description, I established awakening is not the destination, it's the beginning. The real shift is moving from reaction to understanding. Most people are not struggling with this shift because they don't understand this idea. They're struggling because they don't understand what it takes to live it. All right? If you're new here, I'm talking about embodiment. If you're not new here, you've probably heard me talk about embodiment. In fact, it probably could be a drinking game at this point with this channel. But yes, embodiment. Most are struggling because they don't understand what it takes to live it. And you do need to live it to make the shift. What's happening now is not a failure of awareness. It's a failure of integration, structure, and stability. And this doesn't have to be a long-term loss. You know, you can turn this around and turn it into a win. And that's really what this is an invitation to do, to understand truly what you need to do to make this shift, all right? So we're going to focus on understanding this in this video. And then in the next video that I'm going to post, I will talk about actions you can take to help you start making this shift. And again, the decision on whether you make this leap, make this shift, is going to be yours to own. But I am going to provide the guidance on how to do it. Let me grab some of this spearmint tea. All right. So the core reality is awareness is not understanding. People have entered a phase where they see contradictions, they recognize patterns, and they question previous beliefs. But there is a critical distortion. People are mistaking visibility for comprehension. Insight without discipline becomes misinterpretation. Pattern recognition becomes pattern projection. Partial truth becomes overconfidence. Seeing more does not mean understanding more. All right, the central trap, the exposure loop. What many are experiencing is a self-reinforcing cycle. All right, this starts with overconsumption of information, mental and emotional overwhelm, an inability to step back, which in a lot of ways looks like consuming more information, trying to resolve confusion, which then leads to defensive reactions and ultimately stagnation and an inability to move forward. And that leads right back to the beginning into more consumption. The deeper truth is people believe more input will resolve confusion. They feel urgency to keep engaging. They avoid rest because it feels like regression. Key phrases is it feels like regression. And the cycle continues because it feels productive, even when it isn't, and it is not. All right? This cycle actually prevents progress. Why? Because you just keep repeating the loop. And I'm hearing you're more than capable of breaking out of this loop, but you must do it intentionally, and it will require discipline. The hidden breakdown is disorganized thinking. And they want me to actually pause and let you know, I have gone through this phase, and there are still aspects of this phase that I am still working through myself. The temptation to do overconsumption of information is always going to be strong here. You can look up anything about anything or anyone at any given point. So there is discipline that I'm still working through. So I want to be clear when I go into this that I deliver these messages with love, and to remind everyone that I am part of the collective that I deliver these messages for. All right? So this is not me wagging a finger at you. This is all of us being educated and reminded where our power truly lies and the steps that we can take to really co-create the experience that we're having. All right? There are certain skills we need to develop. This is going to touch on them. And I can 100% say that I absolutely had disorganized thinking. And with practice, I've gotten a lot better at that. So let me grab this tea and then I'll keep going. But this is neither the shame nor the blame train. I don't believe in that. It's about, again, moving from awareness to how to actually apply it, because that's where the power lives. All right. The problem is not lack of thinking. It's undisciplined thinking. People are jumping between ideas, holding contradictions without resolving them, informing conclusions emotionally instead of actually processing them. I'm hearing look deeper, look beyond your emotions. All right? Without structure, thought fragments instead of clarifies. And the more fragmented you allow your thoughts to get, which usually does happen with overconsumption of information, the harder it is to get to clarity. All right, discernment is emerging, but it's distorted. There is an attempt to think critically, But without grounding it, it becomes hyperskepticism. Some of you are rejecting things too much. I'm also hearing too fast. It's like if you don't agree with it, you just write that shit off and you don't revisit it. That's not how growth works. They want you to think about what about that does not sit right with you. Are those your actual thoughts? Or is that programming that you're recognizing? Oh, that's funny. Some of you do this with my videos. You just hear shit and you're like, nope. Listen, do whatever you want, but this is my channel. These are my videos, and bitch, I'm gonna say it. I don't care if you agree with it. If I channeled it, fuck that. I don't care how you receive it. That's your decision. But yeah, some of you reject too much and you reject it too fast. They want you to slow that down. They want you to think about that more. They really want you to discern what is your actual truth and what is not. Again, that's a skill. All right, so again, without grounding, it becomes hyperskepticism, selective belief, and confirmation bias disguised as awareness. Discernment without structure becomes bias with confidence. All right, emotional activation is distorting interpretation. People are experiencing emotional opening, but it's paired with distress. All right, so you've got strong emotional resonance paired with anxiety and instability. And that creates another critical distortion. All right, people are treating emotional intensity as proof of truth. And they want to be very, very clear. And I know how tough of a transition this can be, but I really want you to hear this out. Not everything that feels profound is accurate. All right? Emotions are valuable signals, but they are not reliable endpoints. I'm at the point in my journey where if I feel emotional intensity, the first thing I do is I step back. I step back. That's my indicator that, something's going too far and that I just need to take a step back and look at it more objectively. Like I actually snap myself out of the emotional aspect. That's my trigger of I need to look deeper at this. What is going on here? Why is this shocking me? Why is this angering me? Why is this evoking this reaction out of me? It's actually my indicator not to speed up. I slow down. I get really curious about it. Because I ask myself, again, what is this? What's actually going on here? What is actually bothering me? Is it actually tied to this person? Is it tied to the behavior? Is this my body telling me that this is a pattern I need to look at deeper? Do I need to actually command myself to go within and actually address the root cause of what is actually causing this reaction in me? Because I'm not going to lie, I got some downloads yesterday that I'm not going to say what they are, but it actually made me pretty angry. And I recognized that I had that stuff pent up from, previous lifetimes. And part of the reason why that information came through was A, to make me aware, but B, to also bring to my attention the fact that like shit I thought I had resolved, there were new levels that I needed to address. And so I just made the command that I need to process that. I need to let those emotions go, because I just can't be bringing that old shit into the new stuff, When you feel emotional intensity, perhaps that is, I don't know, I just feel like that might be a helpful way of looking at it that someone may want to consider. I'm not saying that's how you need to do it. Figure out what works best for you. But again, we all make our decisions. That's just how I handle things at this time. So, besides, last thing I'm going to do is let a bitch wreck me on a good day. Even on a bad day, you don't get that kind of power over me. All right. So again, emotions are valuable signals, but they are not reliable endpoints. I'm hearing look deeper. Look deeper. All right. Moving on, we got the identity trap after awakening. All right. I talked about this a little bit in the first video. They said go deeper. A new limitation forms. People begin identifying as aware. They attach to their interpretations and they defend those interpretations. All right. This can lead to defensiveness and an inability to transition. This is the shit that can get you stuck. All right. And to be honest, it's a pretty easy trap to fall into. But if there's anything I've learned from being on this journey, is you gotta stay flexible and you gotta stay fluid. I think even my post today about how I have to switch up how I do content on this channel, to make it more digestible, to allow people to actually move through what they need to move through in a way that works for them, in a process that they can also have autonomy over, is just proof of that. You have to adjust. The more I learn, the more insights I get, the less I'm convinced anyone actually knows what's going on in this experience. All right? Rigidity is not your friend. I would actually encourage you stay fluid, question everything, not to the point where, you get paranoid, but sometimes you hear things and you got to ask yourself, do you actually believe in that? Do you think that's true? Does that feel, when you hear that, does that feel good to you? How does your body respond to that? It's really the time to get curious. And also, in some cases, you just got to learn to leave people alone and let them own their own journey. That really is a lot of it. Just because people aren't aware doesn't mean they can't teach you things or bring things to your attention. I don't write anyone or anything off in this experience. This shit don't happen by coincidence. All right? And so for some people, this can even evolve further into some people performing awareness instead of stabilizing it. You have to stabilize this stuff down. All right? This can include people sharing prematurely, seeking validation, and using conflict to reinforce identity. All right? The ego does not disappear. It does not. It adapts. All right? Some of you are switching out one ego problem for another. Don't do that. All right? Urgency, overload, and misplaced importance. When you awaken, everything begins to feel immediate, important, and worth reacting to. This can lead to trying to understand everything at once, an inability to prioritize, and cognitive burnout. All right? Again, you can look up anything about anyone or anything at any given time. It does not mean you need to do it all at once. There is so much information available. The credibility of that information is something I'll leave to your discernment. But the more I really find less is more. Less is genuinely more. And that's just something I learned with discernment. That's why I do not personally follow a lot of people. I don't tune into a lot of stuff. I'm really trying to, I just follow people who I feel called to, who I know have the spiritual authority to do what they do, and that their guidance is true. And I'm really focusing on making me the top source of the information that I receive. All right? Because you can absolutely try to boil the ocean with this. And the ocean is vast, all right? We don't even know shit about, what is it, Mariana's Trench? Like, pace yourself, all right? Urgency is distorting what actually matters. You have your whole life to explore different aspects of this journey. But if you don't have certain foundations in place, you can get stuck, and transitioning will just get harder. All right? Let me grab some tea. The misinterpretation of rest. A critical distortion is slowing down is perceived as losing awareness. This makes people avoid stillness and stay mentally active while overwhelmed. I cannot emphasize this next point enough. Stillness is not regression. It is where integration happens, and you need time to integrate. You gotta think of yourself like plumbing. Think of your body like a house. If you are just taking in all this information constantly, and you are not allowing integration to happen, you are going to create a block in the pipe. You absolutely are. And I'm hearing some of you have already done that. All right? Take a break. Let things process. Stillness, rest, silence. I get the best and clearest information when I am just chilling and just thinking. Some of you may meditate and that works for you. That's totally fine. I do a lot of, my meditation is more of living than sitting still and letting things come to me. But I usually walk and spend time in nature. But yeah, the quietness is actually where shit gets the most clear for me. All right? Let the integration happen. I'm hearing some of you are heavily into subliminals. I've got nothing against subliminals, but you gotta give your subconscious mind breaks to work through that backlog. Some of you are really having a hard time getting clarity because you have so much subliminal shit in your pipes. That's your block. You're not letting that shit actually take place. Give yourself at least 24 hours for a break, like a full 24 hours. All right? Because even I do that. They actually want me to tell you, I listen to subliminals for a couple of hours during the day. I don't even play them overnight because that's actually when I do my integration and my processing. But I listen to mine for a couple of hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's it. That way I get the 24 hours break in between listening sessions, and then I use the weekend to allow my subconscious mind to catch up on anything that it needs to work through before I start again on Monday. All right, let's move on. Conflict as a substitute for clarity. Instead of stabilizing internally, many use debate, disagreement, and opposition as a way to test ideas, validate beliefs, and reinforce identity. Conflict is being mistaken for understanding. All right? And it's just not. You've got to stabilize internally. You absolutely have to. Because again, you've got to stabilize internally because you need to become a container to receive the clarity. Think of it this way. If you have a cup with a hole in the bottom and you're trying to pour liquid into it, that's a fucking problem, right? There's no bottom. There's nothing to contain that liquid. It just passes through. You don't actually get what you need from that process. All right? Some of you absolutely need to allow yourself to become the container. Stabilize yourself. Some of you, oh shit. Let me drink tea and then I'll deliver that. I want to make sure I got that. Some of you, the conflict that you're dealing with in your external environment is partially happening because you have that internal conflict. You don't have the stability internally. That inner chaos is reflecting in your external environment. I heard say it again. For some of you, I'm hearing you will feel this in your body if this is for you. The chaos and the conflict that you are experiencing in your external experience, your external environment, is actually reflecting that the destabilization, like the chaos that you have internally. That's why you don't have peace in your external environment, because you don't have it within. As within, so without. They're telling me as above and so below too. Your external environment is mirroring your internal environment to you. I'm going to let you sit with that one. All right. The deeper mechanism, nervous system overload. The entire process is not just mental, it's physiological. People are experiencing continuous stimulation, emotional spikes, mental looping, and lack of rest. This means the system responsible for processing information is overloaded. Your nervous systems are jammed the fuck up, is what I'm hearing. Some of you really need to take breaks. Some of y'all just need to really start limiting screen time. For some of you, you do need to get outside. I don't know who that's for, but if you have not been, I'm going to describe it as if you've been feeling blue or unmotivated or even very tired. If it is sunny, and listen, hear me out, because where I am, we on some real bullshit temperatures right now. It's like, I think the high is like in the mid 30s today. It's absolute fuck shit, but the sun is absolutely shining. And I'm hearing, even if it's chilly and the sun is shining, go outside. Give it 5 minutes, give it 10 minutes, give it what you can. But some of you need to literally get some sun. Some sun and some fresh air. I'm hearing you're not that different from a house plant. You need water too. If you can get some exercise outside, like seriously, some of you just need to go lay in the sun. You need sun. You need sun. You need some fresh air. All right? But clarity cannot emerge from a state of constant overwhelm. It just can't. And I'm hearing something has to give, and you're going to have to decide what that something is. All right? The required shift, structure over insight. The next stage is not about gaining more insight. It's about building consistency, boundaries, and stability. This includes limiting unnecessary input, developing structured ways of thinking, choosing when to engage and when not to, because some shit is just pure noise, and you will learn what is noise. I'm hearing, for some of you, the noise is like, does that even apply to you? Is that your business? Are you even involved in it? Does that impact you? Certain things are very, very distracting. All right? I'm going to say it because it's coming up. And I'm going to practice what I preach and just tell you, be constructive in the comments or I'm going to block you, because blocking is free and my peace is priceless. But some of you are all caught up in the Epstein files, and I'm hearing, are you in them? Do you know someone in them? Are you directly impacted? I don't know why they're taking me to this example, but some of you are heavily into the Epstein stuff. And someone needs to be asking themselves, how is that actually serving you in your journey? How is that helping you get to the next phase? Do you have the basics of this covered before you deep dive into that? So I don't know who that's for, and I'm going to leave that there, but you need to create space for reflection. And I'm hearing everybody's busy. Everybody's busy. So I'm getting the impression that's not an excuse. Make time. Start with 5 minutes. All right? Without application, nothing stabilizes. and nothing integrates. Understanding is incomplete until it changes how you operate. All right, wrapping this up, the final layers. Not everyone is in the same phase. All right? People are comparing themselves inaccurately. Not everybody wakes up. Not everyone is in the same phase of awakening. Comparisons to anyone outside yourself robs you of the joy of this journey. Now, I'm not saying every aspect of this journey is joyful, but when I look back, I am grateful for every fucking piece of it. I really am. All right? The only comparison I would recommend you make is comparing yourself to the version of you who you were yesterday. Even if you move the needle one tiny tick, that's progress. Take that shit and add. It just compounds. All right? Don't be comparing yourself to others. Really robs you of any joy and any really the joy of making progress with this. All right? Stability feels like loss at first. Less stimulation can feel like regression, but it's not. Some of you really need to accept the fact that you gotta slow down to actually speed up your process, your progress. All right? Think of how all the ways this world wants you to move. All right? For some of you, that's the code you need to fucking break. You know how you actually really make progress with this? Slow the fuck down. They tell you to do one thing. The trick is, in that case, is to actually do the opposite. Slow it down. Slow it down. Let other people run that rat race. Slow it down. Besides, if they're running the rat race, ask them what's going on with the world. They'll tell you. They know. All right. Some are attached to the cycle. Confusion can provide identity and purpose. Some people really get hooked to that shit. It's a choice. Balance must be maintained, and this is an active balance. It's not passive. Even I cannot be tapped in all the time. It's fucking exhausting. All right? Balance, spirituality, and practicality. You are here. You're having this experience. And let's be honest, we all know you stop paying them bills and this experience goes sideways real fucking quick. All right? Balance. Reduced reactivity will feel unnatural. It is a challenge, I will confirm, but it's a sign of progress. Emotional sensitivity is not the problem. Lack of containment is. You don't need to understand everything. Letting go of total comprehension creates clarity. Integration is slower than awakening. It requires patience. I'd say it again. Integration is slower than awakening. It requires patience. The shift is from seeking to filtering. Growth now depends on what you ignore. The end state is quiet. It's not dramatic, but it's stable. All right? The complete cycle, why people are stuck. You move from awakening to seeing contradictions. You get to emotional activation, and it leads to strong reactions. It leads to overexposure, which leads to too much input. The misinterpretation leads to unstable conclusions. This leads to anxiety, which leads to overload. That leads to identity attachment, which leads you to defensiveness. Then you get to resistance, which creates an inability to adjust. And then you get no rest, which leads to no integration, which returns you all the way back up to overexposure, and the cycle just repeats. You are more than capable of breaking this cycle. You don't have to stay stuck. All right? To wrap this up, the true next stage. All right, the situation is not that people haven't awakened. It's that they're trying to understand reality without first creating the stability required to process it. You build the foundation, then you build the house. That is the only correct order. The next stage is not seeing more, reacting more, or discovering more. It's learning how to think, feel, and engage in a stable, structured way so that what you see can actually become understanding. And it requires a shift that many resist at first. All right? You have to move from intensity to clarity, from reaction to discipline, from constant input to quiet, intentional awareness. That's where the real understanding begins, babies. All right, that's the message, so I'm going to leave it there. All right, until next time, babies, take care of yourselves. Bye.